Join me today, because this is not just a story. This is a confession. A confession about fear. A confession about silence. A confession about all those moments when my voice was there, but I chose not to use it. Let me ask you something first. Have you ever known exactly what you wanted to say, but your mouth just wouldn't open? Your heart beats faster. Your chest feels tight. Your mind starts shouting questions. What if I say it wrong? What if they laugh? What if they don't understand me? And suddenly, silence wins. That was my life, every single day. For years, English-speaking anxiety controlled me in ways I didn't even realize at first. I used to think I was shy. I used to think I was just not good at English. But deep down, it was fear. Fear that sat quietly inside me, watching every conversation, every meeting, every opportunity, and slowly closing doors. It didn't start suddenly. It grew, slowly, silently. I remember one of the earliest moments. I was in a small group. People were talking casually, laughing, sharing ideas. I had a thought, a good one. I knew it. I felt it. But then my mind interrupted. Is your grammar correct? Is your accent okay? What if you sound stupid? So I smiled, I nodded, and I stayed quiet. That one moment didn't seem important back then, but it became a habit. At work, I avoided speaking in meetings. I prepared sentences in my head again and again, but by the time I felt ready, the moment had passed. Someone else spoke. Someone else got noticed. Someone else moved forward. And I stayed where I was. Outside of work, it was the same story. I avoided social gatherings. I avoided phone calls. I avoided restaurants where I had to order in English. Sometimes I would rehearse a single sentence for 5 minutes just to ask for a coffee. And even then, my voice would shake. The worst part wasn't that I made mistakes. The worst part was that I didn't even try. Inside, my mind was loud, but outside, I was quiet. I watched others speak confidently. They made mistakes too, but they didn't stop. And that confused me. Why could they speak so freely? Why I felt trapped inside my own thoughts. At night, I replayed conversations in my head. Moments where I could have spoken. Moments where I should have spoken. And every time, the same feeling returned. Regret. I started believing something was wrong with me. That maybe I wasn't meant to speak English confidently. That maybe this fear was just part of who I was. But fear doesn't announce itself clearly. It disguises itself as comfort. It's okay, it says. You don't need to speak today. Next time will be better. And next time never comes. The more I avoided speaking, the stronger the anxiety became. My world started shrinking. Opportunities passed quietly. Invitations stopped coming. Confidence faded. And then one day, something happened. A small moment, but a powerful one. I was standing in front of a mirror, just looking at myself. And I asked a simple question. How long are you going to live like this?
question didn't have an easy answer, but it changed something inside me. For the first time, I admitted the truth. I wasn't bad at English. I was afraid of English. Afraid of being judged. Afraid of being misunderstood. Afraid of being seen as not good enough. And once I named the fear, I knew I had to face it. Not dramatically, not perfectly, but honestly. I didn't suddenly become confident. I didn't wake up fearless. I started small, very small. I spoke to myself, out loud, alone.
At first, it felt strange. My voice sounded unfamiliar, weak, uncertain. I recorded myself, listened back, and yes, I hated it. But I kept going. I made mistakes, lots of them. And something interesting happened. Nothing bad. No one laughed. No one judged. The world didn't end. That realization was quiet, but powerful. Still, fear didn't disappear. It waited. And it returned the moment I had to speak in front of others. That's where the real challenge began. And that's where this journey truly started. Because practicing alone was safe, but real growth required risk. And soon, I would face my biggest test yet. But before that moment came, I had to change something deeper. Not my English, my mindset. After that moment in front of the mirror, something shifted inside me. Not confidence, not courage, just awareness. I started noticing my fear everywhere, in meetings, in small conversations, even in my thoughts. Before, fear controlled me silently. Now, at least, I could see it, and that made a difference. I decided I wouldn't wait to feel confident anymore, because waiting was what I had always done, and waiting had only made things worse. So I made a simple rule for myself. I would speak even if my voice shook, even if my sentence wasn't perfect, even if my accent sounded strange to me. The first time I tried, my heart felt like it was going to jump out of my chest. It was a small meeting, only a few people, nothing serious. I had prepared one sentence in advance, just one. When the moment came, my mind screamed, "Not now. You'll mess it up. They'll notice." But this time, I didn't listen. I spoke. The sentence wasn't perfect. My grammar slipped. My pronunciation wasn't clear. But something unbelievable happened. People listened. No one laughed. No one looked confused. No one judged me. They simply responded. That moment lasted only a few seconds, but it changed my relationship with fear. I realized something very important. Fear lies. It tells you stories that aren't true. It shows you worst-case scenarios that rarely happen. Still, progress wasn't smooth. Some days were good. Some days were terrible. There were days when my confidence felt strong. And then, suddenly, one awkward moment would bring everything crashing down. I remember ordering food at a restaurant. Such a simple thing. But my mind froze. The waiter was standing there, waiting, and I couldn't find the words. My face felt hot. My hands felt cold. I almost switched back to silence, but then I forced myself to speak, slowly, carefully. It wasn't elegant, but it was real. That night I felt exhausted, but proud, because for the first time I didn't run away. I also started changing how I practiced English. Before, I only focused on rules, grammar, vocabulary,
pronunciation. Now I focused on communication. I stopped asking, "Is this sentence perfect?" and started asking, "Is my message clear?" That one shift reduced so much pressure. I began talking to strangers online, short conversations, simple topics. At first, I felt exposed, vulnerable, but slowly, the fear lost some of its power. Then came one of the biggest turning points. I found a language exchange partner.
Week after week, we spoke. Some conversations were smooth, some were uncomfortable, but each one made me stronger. I also surrounded myself with English, not in a stressful way, in a natural way. I watched shows, listened to podcasts, read simple stories. I didn't try to understand everything. I just let the language flow around me. And slowly, English stopped feeling like an enemy. But fear doesn't disappear easily. It waits for big moments. And soon, a very big moment arrived. A conference, an audience, and a presentation in English. When I saw my name on the schedule, my stomach dropped. This wasn't a small conversation. This wasn't practice. This was real. For days, anxiety followed me. What if I forget my words? What if my mind goes blank? What if I embarrass myself? Old fears returned, loud and aggressive. Part of me wanted to quit, to find an excuse, to disappear. But another part of me, a stronger part, refused. I remembered every small step I had taken, every shaky sentence, every uncomfortable moment. I knew one thing. If I ran away now, fear would win again. So I prepared. Not perfectly, but honestly. And when the day finally came, I stood there, waiting, heart pounding, hands shaking. And as I took my first breath, something unexpected happened. But that moment deserves its own story, because what happened next changed everything.
I stood there, on the stage, lights in front of me, faces in the audience, all eyes waiting. For a moment, everything felt unreal. My heart was pounding so loudly I was sure everyone could hear it. My hands felt cold. My mouth felt dry. That familiar voice returned. What if you fail? What if you forget everything? What if they judge you? I closed my eyes, just for a second. And then I remembered something very important. This fear had been with me for years. It had already taken enough from me. Not today. I took a slow breath, not to calm the fear completely, just to remind myself that I was still here. I started speaking. The first sentence came out slowly, not perfectly, but clearly. And then something strange happened. No one reacted negatively. No confusion. No laughter. They were listening. As I continued, my voice became steadier. Not because the fear disappeared, but because I stopped fighting it. I wasn't trying to sound perfect. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I was simply telling my story. Sentence by sentence, the anxiety loosened its grip. I made mistakes. I knew it, but I didn't stop. And that's when it happened. I forgot to be afraid. For the first time in years, my mind wasn't racing ahead. It wasn't replaying mistakes.
It wasn't predicting failure. I was present. Right there. Right then. When I finished, there was a pause. Just a second. And then, applause. Not thunderous. Not dramatic. But real.
My hands were still shaking when I stepped off the stage, but inside, something had changed forever. That moment didn't make me fearless. It made me free. I realized something powerful that day. Confidence is not the absence of fear. Confidence is the decision to move forward despite it. After that, life didn't magically become easy. I still felt nervous sometimes. I still hesitated. But the fear no longer controlled my choices. I spoke more, not because I was perfect, but because I was brave enough to try. I stopped hiding my accent. I stopped apologizing for my mistakes. I stopped waiting for permission to speak. And the world responded differently. People listened, people connected, people understood. Not because my English was flawless, but because it was honest. Looking back now, I see my journey clearly. The silence, the avoidance, the self-doubt, all of it shaped me. And if you are listening to this right now, feeling that same fear, that same hesitation, I want you to know something. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are not alone. Your voice matters, even if it shakes, even if it isn't perfect, even if it comes out slowly. Start small. Speak anyway. Make mistakes, because every time you choose to speak, fear loses a little more power. This journey never truly ends. There will always be moments of doubt. But now, you'll know how to walk through them. So don't wait for confidence. Confidence comes after action. Take that step. Say that sentence. Use that voice. And one day, you'll look back and realize you were stronger than you ever believed. If this story felt familiar, if it sounded like your own experience, you're not alone. Share your thoughts. Share your struggles. And remember, your English doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be yours. Thank you for staying with me until the end. This was not just a story. It was a reminder. And maybe the beginning of yours.